And welcome to Classic City Blue.
I love what I do.
Chief was very much involved into the neighborhood.
Finding your own way of policing and having confidence in it.
Handle the basics.
How do people treat you different?
Answer your calls.
You have a bigger impact than you think you do.
What kind of effect would it have on you, your family, or better yet, the agency?
And welcome to Classic City Blue, a podcast that introduces you to our employees and specialized units within the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. I'm your host, Lieutenant Enrique Rivera. Today, we have none other than crime analyst Nick Barker. Nick, how you doing?
Doing good, Enrique. How are you?
I'm all right. Now, a little warning to our viewers. You will hear some background noise, all because of this man. Nick, tell us why we're going to be hearing some noise in the background.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of building out what's called our real-time crime center here at the police department. And it's a state-of-the-art room that is bringing all of our technology together into one place to assist our agency as a whole, but specifically patrol for real-time investigations when they pop up on the street.
Now, when you say real-time technology, what are we looking at?
So we're looking at all sorts of different technology that ranges from camera feeds, license plate readers, intelligence databases, pretty much every kind of technology that we would use historically in a reactive perspective, like in a criminal investigation, but applying that to the officers on the street as they're dealing with a call in real time.
Okay, so give us a scenario of how this technology would be used.
So a good example of something that we would use it for would be like if we have an incident of a shooter, a crash, or something that happens in an area where we have camera feeds. And as an officer is responding to the scene, we're working with very limited information based off of the call taker or just whatever information that we've just been given. And so our job is to utilize those camera feeds and other technology that we have to be able to give them more information. So for, say it's something as simple as a traffic crash, we would be able to pull that video and ideally get that video out to the officers before they even get there and give them that information so they can kind of see what exactly they're dealing with and what who's at fault, who's not at fault. Escalate that even more, say it then turns into a hit and run. Not only do we then have video of the crash itself, but then we can actually then track that vehicle to where it went to afterwards and maybe even identify that vehicle to be able to figure out where they're going to.
Now, have we always had this capability, or are we like in an infancy phase before we go into this big program?
So we've kind of piecemealed it together throughout the years. It's never really been very efficient. So the camera feeds and the license plate readers, we've had them for years, but we've never really had people that have really dedicated it to a patrol aspect and using it in a real-time manner.
Now, we also have the capability of tapping businesses and their security footage, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So the way that works is so we have our own camera infrastructure here at Athens through like our downtown area. And those are our cameras that we manage and we operate. But then we also have businesses all around the county that have their own camera feeds that they use for their own security and their own stuff. And luckily what we're able to do is we're actually able to piggyback off those cameras, feed them into the real-time crime center, and then use that in conjunction with the cameras that we already have access to.
So if I'm a business owner and I've got several good cameras, right, and I say, well, you know what, this program sounds great. How do I or who do I contact to give y'all the access to those cameras?
Yeah, so the way that it works is they would essentially contact me, either through me directly or through my office, and we would then coordinate with the business to see exactly what kind of cameras they do have. Most of the time, they are going to be compatible with the system that we do have, and then we would then integrate those cameras through a device called what's called a core, and then we would feed that video into our real-time crime center, and then they would be a partner of ours at that point.
Now, and the main concern for some people, and I can see it, would be that we have unlimited access to this, right? Do they give you certain permissions or of how much feed you can get?
Right. So the topic of Big Brother always comes up, right? So we always have to be mindful of the civil rights and civil liberties that we have as American citizens. So when it comes to surveillance and misuse of technology, so when we partner with these businesses, It's up to the businesses to decide what cameras they want to share with us. Most businesses, what they like to do is they'll only share external cameras, so things on the outside of their businesses. We won't share the internal ones because of privacy concerns or something like that, which is perfectly fine because most of the time we kind of mainly just need external. And then also when we get all those cameras together, we're already dealing with over 1,000 cameras that we have access to right now. So we have to be very mindful of what cameras we do access and what time and for what reason. So our policy in the Real-Time Crime Center is whenever we are reviewing footage or looking at cameras proactively, we need to be able to justify as to why we are accessing those cameras. And that's going to be based off of, do we believe a crime has been committed and we're reviewing for video footage, or do we believe that crime is going to be committed? And we justify that as an example of, say during the fall on game days, we're always going to have downtown cameras up Friday and Saturday nights because there's a ton of people downtown. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of opportunities for crimes to happen and victimizing folks down there. So that's why we have to be very mindful of what we're looking at, but why we're looking at it.
And I think that kind of should calm the general public down. We're not just spying on our citizens. We have to have a legitimate reason per our policy to review that, which is always good, right? But one good question is, how many people are going to man this? Is this going to be like a 24-hour thing, or is it going to be like a 9 to 5? What is the time frame that this the cameras are going to be manned?
Yeah, so right now we only have 2 analysts that kind of operate the Real-Time Crime Center in a kind of a quasi environment. So we have 2 analysts right now, but we're mainly also working with like criminal investigations too, and so we try to help out with Real-Time Crime Center stuff as it comes up. But the end goal is to have this Real-Time Crime Center set up with the proper staffing so that we can man it not just during the big hours when we have the most activity, but eventually may turn it into a 24/7 center, because crime does happen any times of the hour, especially in the middle of the night.
Right. All right. So why crime analyst? What drove you to become a crime analyst?
So originally, I actually wanted to be a high school music teacher.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to be, and I was a saxophone player.
Yeah, you can't play sax here.
Yeah, I can't do that, and that's not in the job description, unfortunately.
Well, maybe we can start a Clarke County band.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So I went to college at Florida State, was all ready to go audition for...
Now, to my viewers, we understand that we don't agree with that, but we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Got to Florida State. I was ready to audition for the School of Music. Got my audition dates mixed up and wasn't ready to audition.
Okay.
So then I had to come up with a backup plan. So I thought, man, I really don't like math and I really don't like science, but I really like the show 24, and I think Bauer is cool, so I'm going to do criminology.
Okay.
So that's how I got roped into law enforcement, got my first job down in Tallahassee, and then moved up here in 2016 and started working for this department.
So what's the path? What's the career path for a crime analyst? Is it like a degree or?
Yeah, so for me, I got it started at Florida State with a degree in public safety and security, and I had a focus on law enforcement intelligence. So we had a lot of old retired FBI analysts and military analysts that came and taught us. And so we worked on that, learned from them, but then once I got my foot in the door from a law enforcement perspective, that really kind of got me started. And I started learning like how to think, what's the best way to think, how do I go about things. And that really kind of got me prepared for my position now.
So Florida State, are you a Florida native?
Yes, I'm originally from Tampa.
Okay, so give us a background. Obviously you like to play instruments. What was your childhood like growing up? Did you always grow up in Tampa?
Yes, I'm originally from Tampa.
Okay, so what inspired you to go into the saxophone? Was it like a parent thing?
My brother did it, and my parents made me do music. So because we had an extra saxophone, they said, "Hey, you should do saxophone." So I ended up doing that.
So what did your brother play?
He played saxophone.
So you
too.
both play saxophone.
Yeah.
They make you play at Christmas parties?
They tried to, but I decided not to. I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Well, I mean, So were you shy as a kid? Because you're not shy now.
I mean, I was a little shy, but I was much more into sports than anything. But
what kind of sports did you play?
I did baseball.
Baseball.
I was a baseball player all year round.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what position did you play in baseball?
I was a shortstop. I was a middle infielder.
Well, yeah, I wasn't. And it's funny because most people think Cubans are great at baseball. I was horrible, horrible. Which was my father hated it because he played baseball for the Cuban League. And he played baseball down in Miami, and he was like, "How do you not like baseball?" I didn't like it. So how did you end up here in Athens-Clarke County?
Yeah, so I was in Tallahassee. I was working a job down there with the Florida Highway Patrol. I was ready to kind of make a move and see a change. Policing with a state agency like that is a lot different than policing with a local agency like this. And I really kind of wanted to get in that kind of policing. So saw a job opening come up here in Athens, applied for it, and then luckily got an interview. And in 2016, I had my first day here.
So how long you've been here? That's almost 10 years?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Awesome. And we're glad to have you, right? I know even from my unit, we've been able to use information that you and the other analysts gets for us to solve crimes faster. So it's always a blessing for us. So one other question. How do we partner with the community, business, and homeowners with all this new technology that we got?
Yeah, so we have several different ways. So one of the ways is integrating the cameras like we talked about earlier, but also there's lots of businesses and homeowners that they don't have the camera infrastructure per se to integrate their cameras like a Ring camera or a doorbell camera or something like that, but they can register their cameras with us. And all that does is that it just tells us that, hey, we have a camera, and if you ever need it, here's my contact information.
So you mentioned Ring camera. So if I was a homeowner and how do I register my camera?
Yeah, so we have a website that we can share out with everybody that you can actually go there and register your cameras and do that.
Okay. And then will you still have to ask me for permission?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So a lot of times people kind of get that misunderstanding that when they register their cameras, that means that we can tap in and get the camera footage whenever we want. When you're just registering your cameras, that's definitely not the case. That just gives us a pinpoint of, okay, we can go to this house and say, hey, we heard that you have a camera at your front door. How can we get access to it and get footage for it related to a crime?
So compared to when you first started law enforcement, right, to now, would you say that with this technology, our rates of, catching the bad guy or solving the crime has gone up?
Oh, tremendously. The technology has really just kind of filled in the gap of efficiency when it comes to law enforcement. Because like when you look back at the 90s when there was very little to no technology, you're seeing clearance rates that are just really low because you're having to just kind of rely on simply old school policing, which is knocking on doors and talking to people, which is still very needed these days. But now you have the extra technology that comes into play to really kind of help complement the old school policing philosophy where you're using license plate readers, intelligence databases, cameras that can just make your investigation more efficient.
Now, you mentioned that it's, they still have to do police work. Do you think this technology at any point will hinder or take away those skills from an officer?
So we always have to be very mindful of that because as we have like younger generation that has only seen technology as they've got into policing and really their adult life, they start to become they become over reliant on technology, and we have to remind them that, hey, you still need to go talk to people. You still need to go do follow-ups and go ring on doorbells. The technology is here to help you, but not all the time will it solve your case. But it definitely can and will help you.
So a good detective or a good officer will still need to learn how to speak to people, do the footwork. It'll just be more directive.
Right. So like we'll have a case where we'll have a shooting and we'll pull up the video and we'll see, hey, the shooter, we have him on video and he's wearing X, Y, and Z and he goes into apartment 1, 2, 3. Well, we feed that information to them, but the officer still needs to be able to go develop the probable cause to search the apartment, to talk to that person. And so they need to be able to develop those skills and have those skills to be able to help that. But without the technology, they might not have known, hey, I need to go check out that apartment.
So in areas where people know that there's cameras, right, do you see a significant decrease in crime or not really?
Absolutely. So going back over the last 10 years, like when I first started, cameras were very secretive. We didn't want people to know where our cameras were. We didn't want people to know how we used them. We didn't talk about them in court. It was just very secretive. And then about 5 years ago, I said, let's do a complete 180. Let's talk about it in our reports. Let's talk about it openly in court. We want people to know, hey, we saw you do this and it's on camera and we're going to use it in court. And what we have seen is that the bad guys have then noticed that. They talk about it in court. They talk about it in social media. And they say, we can't do that crime in this neighborhood because they have cameras here. We got to go somewhere else. And a lot of times, that's a different county.
You're also, not only are you in charge of this technology, but you're also in charge of doing monthly stats for us.
Yes.
Correct? And that's where we get our monthly numbers of how many burglaries, how many injured autos, and stuff like that. So how do you get that ready for the command staff?
Yeah, so we do every month we do what's called a CompStat report where we look at the data when it comes to how crime is trending. Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Are we seeing patterns?
What is CompStat?
So basically, it's basically a monthly meeting where we have with our command staff and where we look at more of the data side of things, with number side, kind of the nerdy side of law enforcement. We're looking at, okay, how many ag assaults did we have this month? How many burglaries did we have? How does that compare to prior years? How does that compare to prior months?
Now, looking at numbers, right, less is better, right? Is there any time where more is better?
Absolutely. So there are different crime types that happen that actually are indicative of that can lead to lower crime rates. So those usually fall within crimes against society, and those are drug violations, alcohol violations, traffic stops, those type of crime types where officers are actually making proactive measures that will actually lead to decreases in violent crime and property crime, because what they'll do is they'll develop probable cause to stop a car, and inside the car they find a gun that may have been used, that may have been planned and used in a shooting, and then we look at that gun and it comes back stolen, then we solve a property crime. So having that proactive mindset and maybe bumping up those numbers when it comes to drug violations, alcohol violations, that can lead to a decrease in other crimes such as ag assaults and burglaries, which is what we've been seeing.
So most of those are officer initiated, right? The officers getting out with these people.
That's right.
Okay. Now, another thing you're responsible for is, and I forget the name of it, is you have where you post all our bolos, which is be on the lookout, all our suspect vehicles. You also developed that, or you introduced that to us, correct?
That's right.
What's the name of the program?
It's called Athens Intelligence Sharing Network.
Can you go a little bit into detail about that?
Yeah. So going back all the way to like 9/11, there's been a big problem in intelligence and law enforcement of sharing information. And a lot of times with law enforcement, we get very controlling over the information we have. We don't want to share it. We don't want to have other people knowing that we have it. And that's what led to 9/11. Everybody had all the information to know that there was a terrorist attack going to happen, but because nobody talked to one another, it happened. So as the years have gone on, we've kind of started to break that cycle. And so here at the police department, whenever we come across information or intel or anything like that that needs to be shared, not just with other members of the department, but also other members of the county, we push it out through this site so that they're aware of everything that's going on, so that if they see something that's related to that bolo, related to that information, they can then relay it back to us or vice versa to be able to stop a crime.
So would you say that we are way better now at sharing information with our neighboring counties?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have a great relationship with all of our, not just our neighboring counties, but this whole region of the state. So you can name the 20 to 25 counties that are all around us, and somebody in my office has a direct line to our person in that agency that we can call, and they would help us no problem, and vice versa.
So with all this information, what do you think the success of the RTCC will be?
So the way that we measure successes with the Real-Time Crime Center is, did our efforts to bring the technology together actually lead to an efficient use of police work? Because nowadays, being a police officer is not, the big job that everybody wants. We're seeing, low staffing all across the country. And this is designed to kind of help fill the void and make our officers much more efficient, make them safer. So we had an incident in an apartment complex where we got a call of a guy that was there that they believed that they had barred. I understood the name. And we actually knew that this kid was a gang member, a very violent gang member. And I pulled up the cameras. Not only did I see the person that they were talking about, but that he did have a gun in his waistband. So then I relayed that information on the officers. And as I relayed that information to the officers, I see two of his friends there with him that also have guns. And so that changed the whole aspect of the incident.
Right.
So instead of just one officer showing up and asking, "Hey, who are you?"
Right.
That changed it to a tactical approach to where you have multiple officers showing up with shields and rifles and surprising them to the point where they couldn't react.
Gotcha.
And that kept not just the officers safe, but kept everybody
safe.
safe. And not only did we arrest the kid for criminal trespassing, one of those guns was actually stolen out of Atlanta. Okay. So we got a gun from there.
So 2 birds, 1 stone.
Absolutely. Lots of birds and lots of stones.
You also had another success story dealing with a sleepwalker. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that was a pretty wild story. So we got into work, 7:30 in the morning, and we heard this call going on of a missing girl from the apartments, the Mark, which is just off of the downtown area. And the Mark was actually one of our first partners ever in the Real-Time Crime Center. And so we've had a great relationship with them. Their cameras work phenomenal. The integration works phenomenal. And as we were learning from the officers on scene that this missing person was actually sleepwalking. So the information that we had was the last time she was seen was around 5:30 that morning. That's all the information we had. So immediately me and 2 other coworkers started going through camera footage trying to find her all around the Mark, because the Mark had shared the exterior cameras with us. So myself and the other analysts are there. We're watching cameras, and we have one other person on the radio. And out of the corner, on the very corner edge of one of the cameras, we can see her walking towards downtown. Very barely see her, but the other analyst was able to see it. She calls it out and says, "Oh, I see her. She's walking this way." And so we get on the radio, and we're able to notify officers, "Hey, she is out of the Mark when she was walking downtown." So then that got all of our officers away from the Mark and started flooding the downtown area. And so at this point, it's about 8:15, 8:30 when we finally see the first image of her. So now it's been about 3 hours. And so now we're going through downtown footage and all the camera feeds that we have, went through about 3 hours worth of video, tracing her walking through downtown, sleepwalking just in pajama bottoms, shirt, and no shoes, all around downtown. We go through 3 hours of video footage in 16 minutes. And we were able to finally see her walk inside of a coffee shop in downtown Athens, put it out over the radio and say, "Officers, we think that she's in here." They walk in, and she's right there sitting in the corner, still in a state of sleepwalking. So that was a very dangerous situation that she could have been in, walking around in that time of night by herself, very little clothing, no shoes on, in a state that makes her very vulnerable. And we were able to go through 3 hours of video in 16 minutes and direct our officers of where to go. If we had this happen 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would have had no clue where she would have went. We would have never have checked the Jittery Joes. So who knows what would have happened with that case without the camera feeds and then the people to review those camera feeds to direct our officers.
I'm going to assume that your job, just like any law enforcement officer, is stressful.
It's very stressful.
Right. What do you do to de-stress?
Personally, I play a lot of softball.
Yeah, which you guys were the champions this past year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we run a men's and a co-ed team.
Okay. Did both teams win or just one?
This past season,
okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
So, what if softball is not available?
I do a lot of trivia. So we go have a group of friends that I go out with, and we play trivia at various restaurants.
Wings night?
Yeah, we go Tuesday nights, Tuesday nights, and we go out and play trivia. So
where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Hopefully still here. So what I envision is building this out to being not just a police department thing, but a county-wide thing with multiple agencies all together. So we're building out that room right now, and that room is just a room until we put people in it, right? The video wall is just a video wall. A computer is just a computer, but it's not a real-time crime center until a person is actually there. And so bringing those people together with the police department, the right people, but then also bringing in people from other agencies that have a vested interest in this county together, and we all work together for the common good and using each other's resources and talents together to fight crime as best as we can.
Well, Nick, sounds like you got your hands full, and I do appreciate you coming and talk to us today. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Classic City Blue. We'll see you next time.